also get to hit the kitchen, but in a different way, in just understanding what happens in the world of baking and most importantly, decorating of cakes. I mean, basically, if you're given a cake that is just baked and not decorated, you do not get to feel the whole idea of the beauty of it until it is decorated that you actually want to savor. And so today we'll be teaching you how best you can do that in the simplest forms possible. But before we get to that, allow us to look at what is happening in the country, that is in relation to the health sector, in relation to the education sector, in relation to politics that cuts across all these sectors, and as well in relation to the story that is ongoing as to church, as to the religion and the state, and how best as a country we can manage the same. We welcome your feedback. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE, and I'll get to sample some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. We begin by looking at the papers this morning, as well as just getting to the stories of the day. My name is Linda Lela, and this is Morning Cafe. The Standard newspaper, the People Daily, as well as the Daily Nation are the papers that I have this morning. Let's first of all begin by looking at what the front page of the Standard newspaper has in store. Well, as I have said, we'll be discussing about, or we'll be talking briefly about the church and the state. The gravedigger's horror account of Shakahola deaths failed, and it's unfortunate that the numbers continue to shoot up, and even the cases of the people who've been rescued as well are going up, which is to say, well, it's a plus in relation to this process of exhumation and also the process of trying to save these individuals that were involved in this, activities that were considered religious to them, but then again have been labeled as, cults activities. Exhumation team, whose members earn about 1,000 per day, are speaking to the ordeal, or are speaking to their experiences. They say that the job drains them physically, emotionally, as well as spiritually. There's a story captured on page 8 and 9, but it's been there, and we are on phase 2, and the numbers continue shooting up, and we'll be giving you updates on where we are in terms of these numbers. But even as this process continues, it is the hope of every Kenyan that the government finds a better way of addressing this. And taxes, Raila's new battlefront. A story captured on page 5. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his team yesterday speaking to the conversation of the Finance Bill 2023. They said they had failed to, speak largely about it because they hoped that, the government, the members of parliament will be willing to adjust. That is, members of parliament allied to the Kenya Kwanza team will be willing to adjust and perhaps propose amendments to this. But according to them, they feel like, the president's utterance, as well as the utterance of, the majority leader and a majority of members of parliament from the Kenya Kwanza side, tend to paint a picture of a scenario where they will not agree to these adjustments. And so they say they are a little bit worried for the people of Kenya if this were to sail through. And they say in the event that it sails through without any adjustments, then they'll be forced to mobilize their supporters to hit the streets countering this. And we'll be looking to see how well this will be received and what reactions will be there as well. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga speaking to the KEMSA saga, saying that, well, perhaps this could not have been instigated by the president. And also it's a developing story, just trying to unpack and understand what involves the rooting out of office of PSs, something that perhaps the constitution that does allude to pretty much well, but as it is, in Article 236, well, perhaps they fall under that aspect of public workers, and therefore within this very, article, then they are in a way supposed to be protected. And so, being a developing story, we'll be here to keep you up to tabs. This in relation of the rooting out of KEMSA officials as well as PS on matters of health. That is Dr. Josephine Muru. And Ruto shakes up PS's names replacement for Dr. Mburu. A story captured on page 4. And yes, this replacement and adjustments across different sectors or across different ministries, and including one of the the PSs of the health sector as well being taken to the sports side. and others coming from different dockets to join the health sector. We'll be looking at these names, and we understand just what then informs this quick move or this process of reshuffle, and should it then send some sign of warning to the CSAs that this then is likely to happen, even as the opposition side says that it's important that the Minister of Health then comes out clear to explain what really played out. The mess, or the KEMSA mess, as you would want to call it, also is the biggest story this morning. And they say a day after President Ruto sent managers and board members packing, we reveal just how the scandal-ridden authority has paid millions of shillings to more than 350 employees who were locked out office in Uhuru era purge 19 months ago. A story captured on page 6 and page 7. And of course, they talk about an anatomy of rot, the warning shot, Ruto staff action to put accounting officers on their toes, and why the heads had to roll, what sank Kenya Medical Supplies Authority bosses, and wasted man hours. Well, speaking about riddle of 400 workers blocked from accessing the office. And on the question of accountability, the opposition leader demands accountability from the health CS. A developing story that we'll be alluding to, or we'll be speaking to, alongside the ladies and gentlemen that will join me for this conversation. So we welcome your feedback as well. And let's engage on this matter. And an interesting move. Ruto's new spy master. We are talking about the NIS and the DPP, Noreen Haji, an insider in Uhuru's bits or category of trusted allies who quietly transitioned into Ruto's camp ahead of last year's poll, now lands the National Intelligence Service boss job, replacing Philip Kameru, who is retiring after serving 2 terms. Of course, not outrightly, because then this has to get the approval of the National Assembly. In the event that they approve, then he sails through, or they reject, then as well we go back to the president or to the drawing board. And in the event that they do not either reject or approve, then he sails up automatically, going back to this docket that he was once seated in, that is before he came in as DPP. It will be interesting to watch what this means, even as many have faulted his existence in the current office after his declaration, or after his revelation that perhaps some of the activities that he conducted during the reign of President Uhuru Kenyatta were those ones that were instigated by the state and against a few individuals. And we'll be following up as well on that to keep you up to tabs. Briefly, the People Daily, Equity Bank earns about 12.8 billion profits, that is in first quarter, that is in the business sector. Away from it, Haji nominated to head intelligence, equally that very story that I have picked last on the Standard newspaper. And another 10 bodies found in Shakahola, a developing story that we are here to give you updates on. And we're also talking about a 17 billion promise, that is for civil servants. What is it about? The pay pledge in the budget. Treasury has asked members of parliament to approve extra money to pay higher salaries for public sector workers. And on this side, if approved, then the money will be given to SRC, which will then spend it on collective bargaining agreements. And we know of the numerous collective bargaining agreements with the doctors or the medics, with the teachers, that really have not been met, most of the times sending these public workers to the streets. And we'll be following up to keep you up to tabs. We're looking at the spending plan. 2.2 billion amounts SRC spent on higher pay and PACs in 6 months to December 2022, and about 70 billion money to be used on interventions like paying NHIF arrears. And on June 13th, the day where Treasury CS Njuguna Ndungu will present the budget estimates to the National Assembly. Away from it, how Education Ministry plans to spend its 135 billion. As we're talking about a bulk of the money, which will be used to pay salaries and ensure learners who sit national examinations are able to transition to the next level. Permanent Secretary Belio Kipsang tells members of parliament that some of the money will also be used to increase access to learning for children. that is with special needs. But there are about 1 million learners in secondary schools who will miss out completely. Well, it's quite unfortunate, but as well a step towards the right direction in managing these funds. And they are talking about some 998,620 learners that are not covered under the free day secondary education program. Away from it, end of era as sunsets on Kanjo tracks. Well, interesting move right there, and a story that is captured on page 3 of the People Daily. Well, they're speaking about going, gone. Old Kanjo trucks driven off the road, and the era of dilapidated, battered old vans has come to a close. That is yesterday with the commissioning of a new fleet of 17 vehicles. While you all thought that maybe the Kanjos are out of the streets, then you are wrong. But for once, I think it was a noble move, because we really want to see better cars that are helping the Kanjo conduct their activities. 10 more bodies exhumed in Shakahola. I think that as well we have already picked. Let's take a look at the hard copy of the Daily Nation. The hard copy of the Daily Nation. New faces at Health Ministry as Ruto reshuffle 7 PSs. We're talking about Esther Ngero, Performance Management to Correctional Service, and Peter Kiplagat to Medical Service to Sports, and Jonathan Mweke Sports to Livestock. We're talking about Fantas Kimani from Forestry to Irrigation, Harry Kimtai Livestock to Medical Services, Gitonga Mugambi Irrigation to Forestry, Mary Modoni Correctional Services to Public Health, and Faith Njeri Harrison nominated PS Performance Management. We will be following up on this story to keep you up to tabs even as heads continue rolling at the level of KEMSA in the president's bid to make sure that he cleans this entity. KEMSA paid farms 870 million in a rush, days to the August 2022 general election, and amid slow business for anyone who was not in the business of campaigns. It was raining money for a handful of contractors hired by KEMSA, that is to import personal protective equipment, PPEs, at the peak of COVID-19 pandemic, that is 2 years earlier. And also so much that played out, and questions were there as to what really and who were the individuals that were involved in the numerous KEMSA scandal, especially during this time of COVID-19. There was no handshake talk, Raila says, of chance meeting with the president, and that is a story captured on page 7 on the political beat of the Daily Nation. I mean, many have been asking whether that meeting over the weekend, 3 times, that is at the burial of Mukami Kimathi, as well as at Kasarani Stadium for the activities of sports, and on Sunday, just enjoying the Mashemeji Derby as well. These 2 gentlemen managed to sit together, raising questions as to whether there is something in the offing, but as they would rightfully put it, theirs has been the business of the bipartisan talks, and they're waiting to see what this 14-member team will bring to the fore in relation to addressing the questions and the grievances that have been raised by the Azimio side. Haji nominated to replace Kameru as a new spy master. Those are the key stories on the Daily Nation. Let us pick these ones that have been prepared by my team, and more or less on the same story. National Intelligence Service, NIS, has now a new boss after President William Ruto nominated the Director of Public Prosecutions, Noordin Haji, as its new Director General. Haji will replace Philip Washira Kameru, who is proceeding on retirement. The reorganization comes barely 2 days after the head of state asked for forgiveness for the Shakahola mass murders, acknowledging laxity and complacency by some government agencies over the same. Micah Gungo reports.
President William Ruto has, in accordance with Section 71 of the National Intelligence Service Act, nominated Noordin Haji for appointment as the Director General of the National Intelligence Service. Haji returns to the National Intelligence Service after 6 years of service as the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Felix Koskei, said the presidential action is to facilitate transition of the apex leadership of National Intelligence Service ahead of the retirement of retired Major General Philip Washira Kameru. Major General Kameno was sworn in on September 11, 2014, less than a month after Michael Geshangi resigned from the NIS Director General position. The NIS Director General serves for a 5-year term and is eligible for a reappointment for one further term. In 2019, Major General Kamero's 5-year term was about to end when President Uhuru Kenyatta renewed his term by another 5 years, which ends in 2024. On Sunday this week, President William Ruto asked for forgiveness for the Shakahola mass murders, acknowledging laxity and complacency by some government agencies over the same.
Wanaweza kuomba msamaha wa Kenya kwa kupoteza nyoyo 200 na wengine 600 hawajulikani waliko.
Pale kuna utepetevu katika upande wetu wa serikali na inapaswa mimi niombe msamaha kwa sababu Wakenya 210 tayari wamepatikana katika makaburi.
This comes after the number of exhumed bodies hit the 200 mark. He suggested some government agencies could have slept on the job, blaming the National Intelligence Service NIS, Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI, National Police Service, area chiefs and their assistants, and Nyumba Kumi elders for failing to discover the cult's activities on time.
You've admitted that, yes, there was complacency. 600 people missing. That's a huge number. Someone somewhere must have known. What degree of complacency are we talking about? And are we going to see heads rolling?
Oh yeah, because and that is why I have a judicial, because the Judicial Commission of Inquiry will put people to account. The chief will have to account. The intelligence officer will have to account. The CID officer will have to account. Or the whole chain has to account. So people will be held to account. Because this is not a simple matter.
Ruto said the commissions of inquiry formed will get to the bottom of the matter and that those found responsible will be apprehended. Haji returns to the National Intelligence Service after 6 years of service as the Director of Public Prosecutions. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, 10 more bodies have been exhumed from the shallow graves of Shakahola forest, raising the death toll to 211. Investigators have also arrested 4 more suspects linked to the Shakahola horror, bringing the total number of arrests to 31. And as Andrin Kilemi reports, more bodies are likely to be found as investigators have cited areas within the vast forest that could be holding more graves.
Phase 3 of the multi-agency operation in the horror fields of Shakahola, and 10 more bodies have been exhumed. These raised the death toll to 211. Even as 3 more people were rescued Tuesday, the number of rescues now standing at 84.
The investigation teams are doing very well, and also the forensic team has been able to conclude the exercise for today.
Those rescued today were 3 male adults who are reported to be in critical condition and were rushed to Malindi Sub-County Hospital for stabilization. 4 more people, all male adults, were also arrested with the number of arrests now standing at 31.
We've had 4 arrests, and they are all male and in custody, assisting the investigation team with investigations.
The multi-agency team leading the operation in Malindi, Kilifi County says the number of missing persons remains at 610 amidst report that the vast forest could be holding more graves. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
And Eliud Wekesa, commonly known as Yesua Tongaren, has finally been set free after spending 5 days in custody. Bungoma Low Court, through Principal Magistrate Tom Orlando, ruled that Wekesa had not been found guilty with any offense following an investigation that was done by DCI officers. Our reporter Wanji Sustin tells us more.
Eliud Wekesa, popularly known as Yesua Tongareni, was born at Luhohwe village in Tongareni constituency, and he started the New Jerusalem Church in 2009 For that period, the self-proclaimed Jesus of Tungarin has been attracting followers day after day. The incident of controversial preacher Ezekiel Odero and Paul Mackenzie was like a bad omen to Jesus of Tungarin following radicalization claims at Shakahola Forest in Kilifi County. Wekesa was arrested last week on Thursday under allegations of unlawful operation of an registered society. The prosecution had also said they had reason to believe there were criminal activities of indoctrination being carried out at his church. Former President aspirant Professor George Wajakoya, who stepped in court to represent Wekesa, condemned the arrest of Eliud, saying it was marred with the political interference from Bungoma County leaders. Wajakoya further noted that every religious leader has a right to preach the word of God and is protected by the Constitution.
Another senator from Western, who also tweeted that this man must be condemned to death. For sure, where is this country? Yesu wa Tongareni hana chochote. Kama ingekuwa kama wale mapasta wengine ambao wako na mali, mungeona watu wanaenda huko kutafuta mali ya huyo and glorify themselves.
On his part, Wekesa lauded the court for setting him free, saying it is God's doing. He noted that he is not like other preachers who thrive in wealth, but instead leads a simple and truthful life, preaching the word of God.
Na wanahabari ambao mmekuja nyumbani kwangu hata sina baiskeli pekee. Nyinyi wote ambao mnaingia kwangu mnajua hilo. Hata hiyo kanisa nimetumia tu lime ya white ili isilete sura mbaya, lakini ni ya matope. Nyumba pia si permanent. Nimefloor tu sitting. Wale wakuu ambao nilienda nao Jumamosi, nikatembea nao kwa nyumba, hata nikashukuru Jumamosi na kuanga ni Sabbath day. Nilishukuru hata waliweza kuchukua picha ya sataka, wakahesabu wenyewe, wakaona sataka ni shilingi 250. Na nyanya ndani 6 na vitunguu 4.
Mungu ni ajabu na matendo yake haionekani hivi. Tena Mungu huwezi muona na macho. Lakini Mungu anapitia katika chombo. Chinzi ameweza kupitia leo hii kwa mheshimiwa wetu wa Chakoi. Na muoneanga kwa runinga tu, lakini kwangu leo ni miujiza kwa Baba Mungu.
Wanji Sostin, TV47, Bungoma.
And 13 people have been arrested in Nyambani village, Migori County, over claims of radicalization, child neglect, and lack of identification. They were arrested over suspicions of being a cult-like organization that was spreading false and harmful ideologies to its members.
The 13 were found praying and locked in a house believed to be that of George Juma Oteku. Migori County Police Commander Mark Wanjala now says George Juma Oteku, Helen Anyango Juma, and Alice Achieng were arrested for child neglect, but they denied the charges and are being remanded at Migori prisons.
Watu walipatikana watu 13 wakiwa wamejifungia kwa boma ya mtu mmoja ambaye anaitwa George Juma Oteku, wakiwa na watoto 11 ambayo wamezuia watoto wasiende shule na pia watoto wasiende hospitali, wakiwa wanasema wanaomba. Ukiuliza wanasema ni kanisa ya Yesu, lakini jina la kanisa lenyewe hatukupata kwa sababu ni kwa boma ya mtu.
Helen Anyango Juma, Alice Achieng, Rehema Amina and 9 others were arrested for lack of identification cards. They pleaded guilty and have been remanded at the Migori prisons, awaiting the report of the probation officer on 18th of this month. 8 children who were also found in the group have been handed to Dennis Okoth, the brother to George Juma Oteku.
Watoto 8 ambayo walikuwa miaka 6 mpaka 7, hao walikuwa handed over kwa Dennis Okoth ambaye ni elder brother wa huyu mtu ambaye yeye sio wa hiyo dini.
Wanjala has urged the residents of Migori County not to be swayed into joining religious cults to avoid radicalization.
Napenda kueleza wananchi ya kwamba waangalie madhehebu ile unaona inakataza watu kwenda hospitali, wengine inakataza watoto kwenda shule, watupe information haraka, kwa sababu hatutaki shida itokee kama ile tulikuwa tunaona kwa TV ya Shakahola.
Vera Alberta, TV47, Nairobi.
And so we will tell you how tens of farmers in Kongoni Likuyani sub-county are crying over lack of subsidized fertilizers, even after paying for them. This is despite President William Ruto confirming that most farmers have received their fertilizers since the government has spent almost 6 billion shillings for the subsidy. Paul Kirubi with that.
It is not possible for anybody to lie to me.
What percentage?
By yesterday, we had done 2.7 million.
Just days after President William Ruto refuted claims that a huge chunk of farmers are yet to receive the subsidized fertilizer.
It is the first time, and I want you to bring a farmer on TV to say that they didn't get subsidized fertilizer and that they had to travel from Embu to Kitale to get fertilizer.
Now, the faces of frustration have become the order of the day among farmers in Likuyani. Farmers here struggle to get their hands to the 3,500 shillings per bag fertilizer for months now.
Na mwenye alinyang'anya sisi mbolea, tuliporudia hata akisema wafanye mkutano kidogo ndio watatuita. Tukakuta mbolea ikiuswa na hata wanahusia tena watu wasingishu. Na alikuwa anasema mbolea iende wasingishu. Cha kusikitika sana. Sisi wenye tulinyang'anywa mbolea, sisi sana ni wajane.
Wakatalia crop pressing hii wanakatalia. Ilikuwa na shida gani? Yeye ndiye asikia ujungu kwa kulingana sub count, alituongelesha mbaya sana hapo. Na anatuongelesha mbolea akipeana. Kama sisi tumeona, tumuuliza si tupe mbolea yetu twende, basi kama uliona tinga ndiye na shida, sisi tumekuja tuchukue pikipiki tufanye nini? Tuchukulie, tupepe. Wakatitia maaskari hapa, hata askari mwingine alinieleza hapa ati wewe kijana unataka kutoka Kisirani hata una meno. Kwani nikashindwa nilikuja mbolea ama kutoa meno?
Serikali hii yetu mapolisi ndio wanakuja kutusaidia kutugandamiza. Hawa wananchi wamekuja kudai mbolea yao. Wameenda kusaidika, wameenda kuomba usaidizi kule kwingine, wananyimwa na wanathreateniwa bado na huyo wengine. Wananchi wa kawaida watapata wapi haki yao?
The president had confirmed that so far the government has used more than 6 billion shillings on fertilizer subsidy to increase production of farming that will later on reduce the price of maize in the market. The voices of angry farmers who had registered for the fertilizer is a clear indication that there could be a disconnect between government and the farmers.
Sisi tumekuja tuchukue pikipiki tufanye nini? Tuchukulie, tupepe. Wakatitia maaskari hapa, hata askari mwingine alinieleza hapa ati wewe kijana unataka kutoka Kisirani hata una meno. Kwani nikashindwa nilikuja mbolea ama kutoa meno?
Senior village elder wa Mkunga. Nashangaa sana wakulima wa Mkunga nikiwa ndani mwao. Tulilibia mbolea kupitia kwa M-Pesa account. Nashangaa hiyo mbolea tulipo sign tunachukua ili tuliweza kunyang'anywa.
The efforts to get justice from government officials and even the security officer seems to bear no fruits, despite reporting the matter to the police office. The subsidized fertilizer that cost farmers 3,500 shillings down from the previous 6,500 price is becoming hard to source them, despite the Kenya National Trading Corporation KNTC on January putting place for effective distribution of fertilizers to various parts of the country. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
And just a day after President William Ruto cracked the whip on KEMSA over the bungled procurement process, which has since placed Kenya at a risk of losing 3.7 billion worth anti-malaria nets, that is from the Global Fund. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has since launched investigations into the scandal, which puts more than 10 million Kenyans at risk of contracting malaria. Our reporter Elizabeth Atieno unpacks what is entailed in the anti-malaria net scandal in this report.
In January this year, Global Fund, a Geneva-based organization, floated a 3.7 billion Kenya shillings tender that called for the winning bidder to supply 10.2 million treated bed nets to several counties from November this year to July 2024 in a mass campaign against malaria. However, things took a different twist in February, where the Ministry of Health and Global Fund clashed on the specifications of nets to be distributed. The push and pull between the Ministry of Health and Global Fund led to the extension of tender closing date from 23rd February to 10th March 2023. As of the tender closing date, a total of 16 bids were received, opened and evaluated. On the 6th of April 2023, the Tender Evaluation Committee released its report where it was established that 11 of the 16 bidders were not responsive, with only 5 responsive by KEMSA. According to Global Fund, 2 of the 5 bidders KEMSA settled on failed to meet mandatory documentation requirements and were therefore not in a capacity to proceed to the financial and post-qualification phase. According to Global Fund, the only companies that met all the requirements of both Kenyan and Global Fund procurement laws and guidelines is Premium Movers and China's Tianjin Yakul, which was unfairly excluded from the tender evaluation. The 3 companies, Vika Polymers PVT, Shobika Impex, and Partech East Africa, which was to distribute polyester nets, were ranked as qualified by KEMSA, but were disqualified by Global Fund. Global Fund has since cancelled the 3.7 billion shillings tender and offered it directly to its own online procurement wing, wambo.org. The Ministry of Health had until the 8th of May to sign the handover document to Wambo, but that is yet to see the light of day. KEMSA is now projected to lose 300 million Kenya shillings in commission. Of this amount, 74 million shillings was meant for procurement and 295 million shillings for warehousing and distribution charges. Global Fund then tasked the Ministry of Health with finding out how and who bungled up the procurement process as a condition for continued collaboration.
Pale KEMSA lazima tuifanyie kazi kubwa kuhakikisha kwamba ile kazi yote itaendelea pale. Tunatumia teknolojia kusort out ile challenges ya cartels. Unajua kuna mahospitali nyingi inaendeshwa kwa pesa za umma na hakuna kazi yote wanafanya, ukora mtupu.
The ministry has since bowed to pressure, which saw Health PS Josephine Mburu sent home over the bungled procurement process.
I will clean up KEMSA. Whatever it takes,
Mr. President,
whatever it costs, I will clean it up.
A major policy statement on education should come from Minister of Education in his ministry. If there's a scandal in KEMSA, they should Minister for Health.
This move has since elicited mixed reaction as many ask if PS Mburu was the right person to be sent packing, given that the President, through Executive Order No. 1 of 2023, placed KEMSA under the Department of Medical Services, a position led by Principal Secretary Engineer Peter Tu. Josephine Mburu was the Principal Secretary of Public Health and Professional Standards.
Or there's a permanent secretary for health, medical services. This other one here is just PS for public health. So it's raising more questions than it answers about the so-called surgery in the ministry.
President, through Head of Public Service Felix Koske, also revoked the appointment of KEMSA Chair Daniel Rono just 3 months after his appointment and the entire KEMSA board, and appointed Dr. Andrew Muller as the acting KEMSA CEO and Farmers Party leader Irungu Nyakera as chairperson for the KEMSA board. Other members of the board appointed include Hesbon Omolo, the elder brother of Interior PS Raymond Omolo, alongside Bernard Kipkirui Bet, Dr. Jen Masiga, and Jen Nyagaturi. Some of the 23 counties that were supposed to benefit from the Global Fund program include Marsabit, Turkana, Kilifi, Kwale, Mombasa, Siaya, Kisumu, among others. However, this is not the first time the state-owned company is embroiled in a corruption scandal. In March last year, the Global Fund accused KEMSA of failing to account for 908,000 mosquito nets, 1.1 million condoms, and 10 million Kenya shillings worth of tuberculosis drugs that went missing in its warehouse. The Global Fund also raised a red flag over suspected fake suppliers who demanded 1.6 billion Kenya shillings from KEMSA. And as if that was not enough, KEMSA allegedly inflated the value of medicine by 640 million Kenya shillings.
I don't think that this is the only scandal that they have in KEMSA. I think within a short period of time, you're going to be seeing hemorrhage in this government.
On Wednesday this week, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Ministry of Health will launch a survey report on the nature and extent of corruption and unethical conduct in Kenya's health sector. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thanks, Elizabeth, for helping us unpack this. And, well, in relation to the same, President William Ruto has reassigned certain principal secretaries to different ministries. This comes a day after the Principal Secretary for Public Health and Professional Standards, Josephine Buru, was fired. PS Mary Muthoni Muriuki has been moved from the Interior Ministry's State Department of Correctional Services to the Health Ministry. Esther Ngero, who was in charge of performance management in the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, has been reassigned to the State Department of Correctional Services. Peter Kiplangat Tum, who was the PS in charge of medical services, has been moved to the sports docket. PS Jonathan Mweke, who was in charge of sports, has been shifted to the Livestock Development Wing in the Ministry of Agriculture, while Ephantus Kimani, who was in charge of the Forestry Department, moved to the Irrigation Department. Harry Kimtai, who was the PS for Livestock Development, will now head the Medical Service docket in the Health Ministry. Gitonga Mugambi, who was the Irrigation Department PS, has been moved to the Forestry docket. And the opposition camp has, the Federation of Kenya Employers, warns the proposed financial bill 2023, if passed, could lead to massive job losses as companies strive to manage the cost of human resources in an already straining business environment being experienced in the country, even as the opposition are making fresh threats to lead massive protests to the finance bill that goes through Parliament, terming the proposals as a punishment to Kenyans. But amid the raging debate, coming hot on the heel is the proposed 300% deduction of salaried Kenyans and a top of the same percentage from the employers.
Tonight, the Finance Bill 2023 spells more gloom for Kenyans, with employers saying it could lead to massive job losses. Federation of Kenya Employers Director General Jacqueline Mugo says employers cannot afford to match the 3% housing fund to be deducted from employees.
When you increase the cost of labor, payroll costs go up, and employers are also under distress for very many other reasons, because there are very many other levies that are not deductions from the employees' pay. The total cost of doing business is untenable. That, of course, puts in danger jobs.
Mugo says if push comes to shove, employers might be forced to reduce the number of employees so as to afford the obligation in the financial bill.
Unfortunately, when employers are pushed to the wall, then as a last resort, you have to look at your fixed costs and you have to reduce that. You manage what you can. Because if the government wants you to pay taxes, you have no option but to pay. If all else has failed and you have to pay it, then you have to manage the numbers of staff you have.
This comes as the opposition now says it will be forced to lead mass protest if Parliament passes the bill.
We make it clear that if this bill is railroaded through Parliament, Kenya Kwanza must prepare that we will have no option but to mobilize citizens around the country to fight for themselves.
Top of the issues that the Raila-led PAC are raising concerns over are the various tax statutes, including the Income Tax Act, Value-Added Tax, Tax Procedure Act, among others, which the opposition states will have significant negative impact on taxpayers.
Kupandisha ushuru wakati huu ni kuongeza mzigo kwa Wakenya wengi zaidi. Tumesema Wakenya hawawezi kuvumilia tena mzigo zaidi sasa.
The opposition further questioned the need for public participation on the proposals, arguing that it is just meant to give Kenyans false hope, citing that the top leadership of the Kenya Kwanza regime in parliament had pronounced themselves on this matter.
Tunataka Wakenya wakati huu ya kutafuta maoni yao wajitokeze kwa wengi, jamaa wakija karibu na waende watoe maoni yao, waambie jamaa ya kwamba sisi tumekataa, hatukubaliani na nyinyi kwa kupandisha ushuru kila mahali.
Raila has however placed a list of demands to the government, such as calling for major surgery to the finance bill in the interest of the Kenyans, threatening to mobilize citizens, the social sector, and take the necessary political actions. MPs allied to the government, led by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, called out the opposition for what they stated as misleading statements from the opposition over the proposed Finance Bill 2023. Mwege William, TV 47.
All right, the Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has dismissed a handshake with the President William Ruto, describing the back-to-back weekend meetings with the President as chance meeting. Odinga's no handshake remarks echoed President William Ruto on Sunday, who said the bipartisan talks are not geared towards a handshake. The two leaders' remarks comes in the backdrop of success at the ongoing bipartisan talks, as Apollo Kamau details.
Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga has settled the debate on the much-speculated handshake between him and President William Ruto, calling the back-to-back weekend meetings as chance meetings, while asserting he is not interested in a handshake with Kenya Kwanza.
And I want to say this for umpteenth time. Mr. Gachagua, understand, we do not want any handshake with Kenya Kwanza. You have not asked for it, we don't want it. And we will not go for it.
Odinga first met the president during Mau Mau War veteran Mukami Kimathi Burial in Njambini, Nyandarua County, where he claimed a hostile reception to his arrival had been plotted. Then at Kasarani and Nyayo stadiums, where the bromance was interpreted to mean a handshake was in the offing.
We just met there as a chance at Kasarani. And we watched the tournament together. We did not invite each other. The following day, there was Mashemeji Derby at Nyayo Stadium. And I was going there because I'm the patron of Gor Mahia. We watched the match together. At the halftime, we went down to the lounge. There's only one lounge. And then we met there. And the pictures were taken. But we did not talk anything other than football.
Odinga's statement takes a cue from President William Ruto's live televised interview on Sunday, where he said he is only interested in bipartisan talks and not a handshake.
Mimi mazungumzo sina shida. Bora sio mazungumzo ya handshake. Kama ni mazungumzo ya kule bunge, watu waende waongee.
Despite the two leaders disowning a handshake, their 14-member representatives in the ongoing bipartisan talks are said to have reported progress. The bipartisan team has broken another stalemate after agreeing to adopt a hybrid process for the talks, meaning inside and outside Parliament. Both sides are now free to hire experts from outside, paving way for talks on the key agenda. According to Odinga, the weekend's turn of events have not changed the river's course, meaning Azimio's quest still stands. Apol Kamau, TV 47 in Nairobi.
All right, and the gentlemen are here. I am glad that Mhesh got the memo. Well, you did get the memo as well in terms of the colors that we're wearing. And we get into this very important conversation. I know some of these things we have spoken about for the better parts of, say, the week, but they are very important, and getting the view of different individuals is key, because out of these views is when now also the government knows what the Kenyans want and what are the best things to do or adjustments, if any, and this I mean adjustments in the positions that they hold. And this very conversation will involve the 2023-2024 finance bill, which as well we know very well on the 20th should be the last day of presentation of our views as the people of Kenya, that is on the question of public participation. And we have had the Azimio team speaking to it and saying that, well, if these adjustments are not going to be made, then they'll have no choice but to mobilize their funds to the streets because, as they would say, Punda Michoka, and that Kenyans are complaining. The last time I had Honorable Jimmy Gakuya here, he also alluded to the fact that, well, there needs to be some bit of adjustments on this. Perhaps one of the Kenya Kwanza, members of parliament who speaks contrary to what the others do in his, rational position says that, well, as a person who represents Kenyans, it is important or incumbent upon him to listen to what his constituents have to say in relation to the same. If they call for an amendment, it would be necessary for that. But a majority of the members of parliament of Kenya Kwanza maintain that the bill should sail through as it is because it is part of their plan to making sure that they give us economic emancipation. Do you believe in that or not? The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. Let's get into this discussion, even as the Federation of Employers have now, decided to speak to this, and theirs is not kind or kind words, as they say. Well, unfortunately, this would get them to a point, and especially on the housing levy, would get them to a point where they'll have to lose some employees or even, work with employees that are disgruntled, and this is one thing that they do not want for the same. So the gentleman will help me unpack on this. In studio already is the Member of Parliament in Embakasi North, as I have mentioned, Honorable Jimmy Gakuya, for us to get to discuss to this, as well as governance expert Dr. Eric Regalo, who joins us this morning. He doesn't like it when I call him that, but yes, Eric Regalo is in studio. And shortly we'll be having Honorable Joe Mutambo as well joining us for this. But before he's here, allow us to begin with this gentleman. First of all, Mheshimiwa, I know you are one of the few members of parliament who are lucky to meet their constituents on a daily, whether the parliament is in session or not. So I don't think I'll tell you to say hi to your people, because on a daily basis you perhaps traverse the different parts of Embakasi just to interact with them. But I'll allow for you to salute the viewer.
Thank you very much, Rita. Good morning, viewers, wherever you are watching us from. I cannot miss this opportunity to salute my constituents, though they are just close proximity, but actually it's not very possible to at least mingle with every one of you because you are in big number, and sometimes I cannot be able to reach you individually. So wherever you are, whoever watching us, I salute you, good people of Embakasi North. I always state very clearly that you are very important members because it is your choice that makes me to enjoy this opportunity, even to be in this particular TV, because if most likely I could be out of that kind of field, maybe Rita could not be having an opportunity to cite me.
What are you saying? It's a privilege, by the way, to.
But in fact, I will always be saluting you. You are good people. It is Nairobi. It's a history for a constituent to be electing continuously a member for 3 spontaneous terms. I am sure that you are not even tired, and I am sure that in fact even the 4th is just on the offing. Thank you very much. Let's enjoy the debate.
2027. I always want to believe by the time the people are, voting you for the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th, is because you have done great for them in terms of representation. So, Mheshimiwa, I think I'll say keep up. I'll say keep up to that. So, Eric Regalo is here as well this morning. Jambo, sir.
Salama, Linda.
It's long since I saw you last.
Your holiday?
It was great. I thank God. For once, I enjoyed my leave days.
Did they tell you look cute?
Well, I don't know. This gentlemen here are so bad.
Even Wakenya wa kawaida.
Wakenya wa kawaida, they say, well, you look rested. And I think it's the whole idea of enjoying your leave.
You should. Especially after elections, you are here day and night. I remember.
COVID-19 times.
Yeah.
BBI time.
Yes.
There's not a single time.
You needed that rest.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope you had the best.
I did. I thank God.
Nashukuru sana.
You well?
We've been around here and there watching this space as Akina Gakuya trying to fix us down. We are here. We will survive the tide.
Gakuya, interestingly, agrees that, well, there are some bit of the finance bill that really would require
contrary
to most of the members of parliament.
Gakuya is a man of ground.
Yeah.
He's been there as a councillor. He's been there from a councillor to an MP 3 terms. Tells you ground ni yake.
Yeah.
Si ati anasikiza ground inamsikiza. Si ende anasikiza ground.
Yeah.
And he knows what his people are looking for. Yeah. And remember, Gakuya also shares the area of Dandora.
Yeah.
And even all the way to Kosovo, all those ghettos in Dandora. Some of them are in Gakuya's constituency. When I say ghettos, what I'm trying to mean is that the low people of this life are living there. Dam site is in Gakuya's constituency. So you know the people at the dam site.
Dandora dam site, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay.
You look at the dam site, you look at the area around the dam site, Wangu, Primary, all the way, and the stench and all that. And you see Gakuya also neighbors Korogocho on the other side. Directly, actually, the difference between Korogocho and Gakuya is a river. When you cross the river the other side, you're in Koch. When you cross the river this side, that river used to be famous with one pipe, a whole big pipe. People would balance on the pipe as you cross the other side.
Yeah.
And nowadays there's a road there just because he's been there. Yeah. And I'm not saying because he's here, because I know him for quite a long time. And if he is for changes in that bill, it addresses what he knows on the ground.
Yeah.
One-term MPs will not talk like that. Some of them are so, what do you call, emotionally positive to anything that is happening. And this one gets me back to the book, The Government Inspector, famously in Kiswahili, not government inspector per se. I would talk about Shamba la Wanyama.
Shamba la Wanyama.
Okay?
The animal farm. Yeah.
In the animal farm in Swahili, of course, there is also the version in English and many other languages. In Swahili, there is an animal, the horse, that was called mwenge. And if you read about mwenge, mwenge would say kila kitu ni sawa. Na nguruwe yuko sawa. And when nguruwe were killing other animals, mwenge was supportive. Kila kitu iko sawa. And mwenge was this nice guy who would work very hard, make good production. Mwenge alienda akachoka, akagonjeka, akavunjika. Then came a time Mwenge was supposed to be killed because now all the animals had died and Mwenge was the only one amengojea kumake chakula because pigs didn't have anything to eat. And Mwenge had to be killed. Still saying everything iko? Sawa. I'm talking to those MPs. Some of them ni wa Mwenge kabisa. Kila kitu iko sawa. Hata kikiendelea vibaya, kila kitu iko sawa. And this Moi's time and Ruto's time, they look similar.
Well, things were not going on well during Moi's time.
They look similar. There were the Kamodos, and nowadays we are seeing Akina Ijongwas.
Well, we are coming back to that, and we ask this morning, has the hustler been shortchanged? Or what do you make of all these activities of the Kenya Kwanza government? Is everything okay? After the short break.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Funike tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lisney, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Funike, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you then. Don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia wa parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health,
cooking, relationships, and entertainment. Join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit. We have not even scratched the surface when it comes to knowledge about disability. Beyond the Limit with me, Zainab Mohammed, every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
You know what pops in my house more than the rainbow? Walls. You know what I love between me and him? Space. Don't worry, dishes. No one is doing me either. Hey, not much. Just hanging around. Pull yourself together. Enough on the jokes. Let's talk about real estate. Catch The Realtor every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m.
A question or the topic, is in form of a question, asking whether the hustler has been shortchanged. I know it is a government of the hustler, if you'd want to call it, but the hustler himself or herself argues that, well, they do not seem to feel this, concern of the government in, their own interests, their desires, their expectations, and therefore they sort of feel like they should change. And I know you have seen clips making rounds, and the irony of it all is that people will even forward these clips from the president's staff just to remind him that, your people sort of feel like, the prices of unga have shot up and the pinch is being felt across, not just to the few who did not support the Kenya Kwanza government. Mheshimiwa, the hustler has been shortchanged?
Thank you, Rita. Coming to your question, I would say hustlers has not been shortchanged. It's only that the institutions are the ones which dictate what action should be taken by the government of the day, depending on the circumstances. And the position we are in as a nation is not only Kenya, which is in this trouble. This trouble is worldwide. And everybody else who is able to watch various number of international news, they would at least buy my idea that in fact there is that kind of economic crisis, and Kenya is one of those mostly affected. You realize that in fact our shillings has been pushed almost to 140. And even within our East African borders, our shilling is still weakening. And in this case, we cannot say that this is a trend which has started with William Ruto. And once you inherit a government, you inherit the government with its liabilities. And to address their liabilities, you need also to think out of the box, because probably the projections and the targets of your corrections cannot meet the demands. And once it fails to meet, you must think out of the box. How do you do to fix? Because now these are burdens of debts. You need to keep on paying your debts, and you have inherited them. This is a government. You need to pay salaries. This is everything else. And there is what we call now the constitutional mandates, what you must devolve this money to the counties. You must make sure that actually you meet all these obligations. And probably, leader, if you are the one who is wearing the William shoe, you must also understand that, in fact, there are a lot of areas that he has considered in his budget making. This is his first year of budget making. Because you realize that these home commodities, including maize, sugar, rice, the government has made sure that they are duty-free, so that at least they can be able to reduce the pressure of the cost. And that's the best way the government should do. You realize also, in the area of industries, those industrial machines and farming machines, those who are making commodities like fertilizer, has also given a window, so that at least there can be at least a flow of what we call economy, and the common Mwananchi who is there, who is a farmer, can also be able to enjoy that fertilizer to farm. And there is no miracle that actually things will happen good at Asigode. And Loma, let us agree, was not built a day. There's only pressure at this particular moment. God has given us lane. And number one, let us say that actually the food security is the one which controls the lives of the people. And it has been so hard within the last 7 good months because of the drought that was been there. And to address the drought, you must leave aside other business and concentrate with the people, because you cannot build tarmacs for people who are no longer living. And therefore, a leader, that situation is the one which can make us to the level we are. And the tax that are rooted by this finance bill, purely, Kenyans can be able to see, to oversee them as if they are so draconian or so tough. But I would say that, in fact, the government has nowhere else to poke. It has to look for areas of concern where it can be able to raise so that it can meet the obligations.
You're saying milk a cow dry, but Eric Regalo, Mheshimiwa has some point here, valid points that globally there is a problem. But then again, the wisdom of a leader, and in this case, whether you like it or not, countries will be viewed individually, like it was in the case of COVID-19. Trump, one of the reasons why he did not face it easy in the United States is simply because the people of the United States felt like he did not handle the corona case as expected or in the best way possible. I mean, and this was a global menace. I mean, Magufuli, in his own wisdom and all that, at some point in time was blamed as to how he handled the COVID-19 scenario. Others, looked at it as a plus. Here we are. We acknowledge that we have a global problem. But is that what we are going to carry as a people, to justify the failures and the lack of perhaps, wisdom and mechanisms and proper policies of handling the troubles of the people of Kenya?
Linda, we don't have a global problem. These problems have always been there. Economic shifting has always been there. Remember the Great Depression in America?
Well, the fact that they've been there is a clear indication that, yes, we have a global problem. Yes.
So, Linda, you want to tell me, because your school was burnt and you are told to go home, when you come back, you say you got an E because your school was burnt, and someone else got an A, the same class. So it is your own to work on your own. So when you tell me the global problem is there, that's why we are lagging behind as Kenya. It's the same student who says, our school got an issue, that's why I failed. You have your own capacity to do your own things your own way. Because when you failed, someone got an A, and the same school was still burnt when that person was also with you in school. So what are you trying to tell us? You're trying to tell us that Kenya is doing bad because we have a global problem. Because it didn't rain sufficiently in Kenya, we have a global problem. But it doesn't rain in Egypt. Does it rain in Qatar? Does it rain in Saudi Arabia? Does it rain in Brunei? Does it rain in Israel?
But we must also the dependence of our neighbors and worldwide are different. We are dependents of a country that depends on agriculture. That's our main. And therefore, when the agriculture is destroyed, where else do we poke?
Israel as well is
Linda, Israel is dry.
But I can
do
tell you,
they sell us orange?
Of their farming irrigations are quite up to date. Probably we have not fixed our intervention.
Exactly. That is where I'm saying the hustler has been failed. The hustler fund is a failure. Arizona certificate was told to the hustlers. How many have gone to Arizona? Nai River cleaning. How many hustlers have been Nairobi cleaning the river? Unga for 150, brother. How many days did people eat that unga? Was it even there? Hustler has been failed. 10 million tree planting. I heard that we never prayed for the trees. That's why the trees were not getting nutrients from the ground. Amen. So hustler has been failed. Reduction of fuel prices.
The trees are not ongoing. Planting is not ongoing.
Your leader says you are not praying for the trees. So, brother, start your prayer sessions for the trees. Reduction of fuel prices. Hustler has been failed. Reduction of dollar value. Your leader said, give me 1 month, the dollar will be coming down. So anyone keeping the dollar, bring it out. Hustler has been failed. Hustler has been failed in cheap mobile phones. There was a mobile phone that was supposed to go for 5,000. Where is it? Hustler has been failed. Free internet, where is it? NHIF, brother, where is it going high? Hustler has been failed. Job abroad, where are they? I heard there were jobs in Canada and where in Germany. I'm waiting to see still. Where is the Zion forest? Somewhere in Machakos. I'm waiting to see. Beef to Indonesia. Is the beef still going to Indonesia? Hustler has been failed. Mama Mboga and Boda Boda, what's happening to them? Higher Education Loans Board, to our own university students. Those are the main hustlers because they are still students. They were failed. Borrowing going up. Where are the diapers that were supposed to be given for free to mothers? Where are the diapers? Why did you fail the mothers? Hustlers has been failed. Gualana Kulalu was actually stolen. Hustler was failed. Devolution is actually in ICU. Hustler has been failed. Investors Wazungu are just going Murife. Murife is running away. Safaricom investors are running and everywhere. Hustlers are being failed. Police salary is a smoke screen. They were told there would be added salary 50%. Where is the police salary? You know, we're asking this. That's what I'm saying. Your question was, has Hustler been failed? Okay. I'm answering the question. Where is the 50% salary for the police? Hustler has been failed. Taxes are going up. Appointments, yamune peke, yamune. And then, where are the passports? I hear even the printing papers for the passports are not there. Hustler has been failed. And let me tell you, that's why the hustlers even in in Rift Valley are now answering. The videos are going all over.
Are these videos stage managed? And do you agree to the questions that are being raised by Eric Regalo here in terms of the promises that were set, in terms of the timelines that were set to these promises? And
let me ask a simple promise. A simple promise. A simple promise was Arizona, that I've already talked with Arizona University. The documents are already there. Anybody going inside the ground in Nyao Stadium will come out with what? With the document for university. How many hustlers went to Arizona?
I think, Rida,
why do we lie to people?
My good friend should also be keeping on correcting data so that he cannot become a Thomas. Because it's like he does not check up with those data to know what those promises which has been fulfilled and which are halfway and which are complete. But I can tell you, all those promises, most of them, some of them has been fulfilled. But actually, this is a short term where most of the fix are not really done fairly. And with that serious cause of drought, I can tell you for sure, anybody who was expecting, who had been expected to fulfill the short-term dreams may not be able to achieve because of that. But that does not read that we have lost our course. And we are still in course, and I can assure you that. That Kenyans, what I would like to tell them, they should not just hear what Lagaro is trying to say, because Lagaro is a purely a criticism, and actually he is free to do that, because he has a democratic right to criticize the government, and you know the side he represents.
It becomes difficult not to listen.
No, one thing, Linda, I can tell you, it becomes so hard to at least to protect or to defend a sitting government, and especially at this kind of time we are in. But I can tell you for sure, as a representative of the people, I am sure that the government is not asleep, and it's not that the government is destroying anything. It is a situation that the country has found itself. And there are things that actually we cannot jump and say that actually because these are abilities, we inherited them, we cannot honor them. We must carry them together with us. And therefore, my good friend should be part of us, and he cannot be reasoning as if he's a foreigner. He must reason as a Kenyan. And any single area that he thinks actually requires such his might advice, he is free to do that. But the essence is not to come every morning to criticize. We are building this country, all of us, and nobody should accuse himself as if he doesn't belong to Moon and does not belong here.
Mheshimiwa, allow me to loop in Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambu as well and ask the very same question. Let's see whether he criticizes or agrees to what it is that you say or tries to bring a balance. And like I asked, it becomes difficult not to listen to Eric Regalo when in a way he is stating facts and just looking at what it is that you promised vis-a-vis what it is that you have given or you have achieved, or even the likelihoods of the same being given, because then in analysis most of the times you want to look at the possibilities that these ones are going to be accorded. Honorable Joe Mutambu, thank you so much for creating time to be with us, former member of parliament that is of Mwingi. It's a pleasure to have you. And of course, having held a couple of great offices in the country, has been here long enough, to understand the games of politics, has worked with this gentleman here, has worked with the president himself. Here we are. Has the hustler been shortchanged in your opinion?
One of the mistake political analysis make, and I want to quote Mr. Mandela, is to assume that your enemy should be my enemy. I will not take the perception of my good friend here. And I will not be quick to judge the government.
Okay.
I was standing there when I heard him speak. And all the issues he's talking about is the promises made by the government. I am a politician. And when I go to field to search for food, I tell people what I'll do.
Yeah.
With a disposition of either getting fund from the government or getting CDF to perform. The government performs with a budget. They don't perform in rhetoric. This sitting government, it has not read its first budget. So I will not be quick to judge it. If I promised to do something as a president, I will peg that on the budget. Today, Ruto is performing with the previous budget, which was read by Uhuru Kenyatta. That is not his budget. And as a government, there is no way you can come in and say, now since I've taken over, the budget which was allocated last year, I'm going to scrap. You follow that budget to the latter.
Okay.
Then you come up with a new budget. Okay? You come up with a new budget aiming at your manifesto of what you promised to your people.
What would be the worst that can happen?
Let me finish my point.
Yeah.
We are expecting June, this government to read its budget. And we have some sneak preview. Okay. I was here on this show last, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. And I raised a very pertinent issue. Because then there was an issue of the cabinet of, I don't know, Musalia Mudavadi, going to parliament to answer issues of taxation. And I asked a question. If parliament passed a legislation to levy road development levy, okay, on fuel, how do you expect the minister to remove? Unless you go back and remove that road development levy in parliament and make it a law. I'm so glad because I have a preview of what is coming through the budget policy paper. That road development levy will be removed by law, so that it will not be exercised. So that we go back now to his question. Why is the price of fuel going up? If we have that legislation in place, it has to be implemented. What does that mean? That means the cost of fuel must go up. All right? So when we sit here and we start throwing stone to the government, why have you not brought... We don't need to ask the government to reduce the price. We need to ask our legislators to go back to parliament and look at the laws which are taxing Kenyans.
You have looked at the finance bill 2023.
Correct.
Yes.
All right? So I just want to go through his list.
Yes.
I saw it somewhere on
Making
social
content,
media.
yes.
And I heard him talk about it. And I'm asking myself, why would I charge somebody who promised to do something and he has not gotten his first paycheck? Whatever the government is doing today is running through a previous government, budget.
Budget.
And two, we don't expect it within 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Okay.
All right? I mean, if I tell you I'm going to marry you and build you a castle, you don't come to my house and ask me where's my castle within the first week. It takes time. Even the bricks takes time to cure.
Okay.
The Kenyans, we need to learn to be patient. I will judge this government after 1 year of its budget. That is what I will do.
Eric Rogalo, in defense or in countering?
A country, immediately a new government comes in. It comes in with its policies. And it has its ways of working. So if truly this government is following the budget of the last government, then why did Ruto remove the subsidies?
Well,
I will answer that. I will answer that.
Why did Ruto remove
I will answer that.
I'm almost
kazi
tempted to
kwa
answer.
vijana?
Yeah.
Why did Ruto remove so many things that were in the other budget? Why did the Chinese go away? Why have they not finished their work? Because it was in the budget. Why did the road Marua stop? Because it is budgeted. Why did Mau Mau road stop? Which is budgeted. Where is the money going then? So if he's following it to the letter, then later he will start using his own money. Of course. Then where did he take the other money? And if the other money is somewhere kept, then why can't it be used to reduce cost of other things, other commodities, because it is money kept? Okay. He is saying...
In the first place,
he is saying,
you confirm that money was fully collected. The targets were fully to capacity.
That is why
what
I'm trying to say.
As far as the money is somewhere, and the money is kept somewhere, can you confirm?
Then
according to the projection of that financial year, domestically, what did you collect? And how much did you borrow? Then you compare the note to tell us where the money is.
Guys were being paid every 2 weeks. So money was there to pay these guys, okay? So that stopped. And it was a budget that was done that this money will be paid until such a time, then we go again budget for them. So every 2 weeks, the young guys from Kazi kwa Vijana are getting their money. This is something, even in your constituency, was working. So where did that money, which we used to pay these young people, go? And if it was kept somewhere and it's not being used, why can't it then be reverted to help reduce some of these costs?
If I understand him well...
There was money that was being used in subsidy, fuel, unga, and other subsidies that were there. These subsidies were removed. Only fuel is remaining. And if at all really, he was following it to the latter. Then when you remove subsidy to unga, okay, and that was already budgeted for, where did you take that money?
The fuel prices hit up.
The money was taken to the production.
All right.
You know, we don't need to argue to make a point, right? We need to be realistic in what you are saying. First, we need to understand what is a budget. What is a budget-making process? A budget is a projection of what a country produces. Right? What we collect.
Yes.
When we are projecting, that does not mean that money is locked somewhere in the safe. And he has said it very well. Every government comes up with these policies, with our policy, right? So when I come in with my own policies. The pronouncement of subsidy was done by the president. That was a presidential decree. And once the president does that kind of a decree to subsidize either a commodity or a project, he goes back to parliament to ask for what we call a supplementary budget for that particular purpose. And a supplementary budget is not for the whole year. A supplementary budget comes for a quarterly. It's not a whole year. So when the president says, I want to subsidize unga, he has to talk to the members of parliament to subsidize, or he go to article, is it 203 or 223 of our constitution, whereby the minister of finance is allowed to spend money and regularize in parliament. 223. So that is a one-time thing. It's not a yearly projection. A budget is a yearly projection from June to June. Government here. So if he's asking where did that money go, you need to understand how does this money come in the first place. If you don't understand that, you'll argue blindly. And if it was given a go-ahead, or the president or the minister was given go-ahead to spend for subsidy so that he can regularize in Parliament. Parliament will only regularize what the minister has brought forward.
Let's talk about
That's
Azimio,
important.
Mheshimiwa.
That
Let's
is
talk about
number one.
Azimio.
Let's go also to Kasim Mutani.
Yeah.
Also, Kasim Mutani was not hanged in a law. It was a presidential degree. It was a president who proposed that we want to introduce Kasim Mutani. So how are we funding this Kasim Mutani? Kasim Mutani was being funded through supplementary budget.
Yeah.
It was not something which was in the budget, in the budget policy paper. I need him to quote which section of budget policy paper of year 2021, 2022, where Kasim Mutani.
For purposes of the people who are watching,
for the purposes of Kenyans,
budget,
we need
is
to
it not part?
Let us tell Kenyans the truth and what is going on and how government works.
Yeah.
A government can wake up today and say a bridge has collapsed, all right, somewhere. There was no money for that bridge to collapse because when we are doing them, we don't anticipate the bridges to collapse.
Yeah.
But the minister under 223 is allowed to spend money to do that bridge. So when he asked where did that money go, there are so many other issues which are affecting this nation. And when the president said, I'm going to subsidize fertilizer production, why are you asking that question? You know that fertilizer was not budgeted for.
Yeah.
And when the president came and pronounced himself that he's going to subsidize fertilizer, it needs to click to your mind, if you are a learned person, that money was diverted to fertilizer. Don't mislead Kenyans. And you ask yourself a question, is there any Kenyan or any farmer in this country who has received a bag of fertilizer?
Well, a majority have,
price?
others
And if
say
they
haven't.
You know, it cannot be everywhere. You need to understand.
Okay.
You cannot expect to take fertilizer
I wish
to a
to ask Joe.
Let me finish. You cannot
just
expect.
ask you so that you continue. I need to ask Joe. Then where did 50 billion for Hustler Fund come from? Was it under supplementary budget?
223.
Or no, just I'm asking.
Okay.
So if it was 223,
it was in fact 223.
223, 50 billion.
Yes.
Did it go to Parliament?
Not, it is not 50 billion. So far, we have expended.
It has grown.
It has grown.
No, I am telling you, the 223, the first 223 was able to release 10 billion. And that was the first money that we, in the supplementary budget, there was a set aside budget of 20B. So the 223 article was only to enable the first batch of 10B.
Am I wrong
Let's
then
finish
to
your
say,
question.
am I wrong
Can I answer
then
the
to
question?
say
Because they
some
asked
of
me.
these things were stopped so that we get money for Hustler Fund?
Good question.
My
Allow us to
question.
take a quick short break and then come back to that. All right.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Funike tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lizney, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Funike, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you then. Don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia wa parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health, cooking, relationships, and entertainment, join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit. We have not even scratched the surface when it comes to knowledge about disability. Beyond the Limit with me, Zainab Mohammed, every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
We have Honorable Member of Parliament of Embakasi North, Jimmy Gakuya. We have Dr. Eric Regalo, as well as Honorable Mheshimiwa here, that is Joe Mutambo, who's former Member of Parliament of Mwingi. So we get to this conversation deeper, and we ask whether the hustler has been shortchanged, or we are too quick to judge the current government, and perhaps very important that we allow them time to try and walk into their manifesto for the goodness of the country. Article 223 of the Constitution on the supplementary appropriation. And yes, we might not be able to go through the whole of it, but just the basic one, subject to clause 2 to 4, the national government has spent money that has not been appropriated if the amount appropriated for any purpose under the Appropriation Act is insufficient, or a need has arisen for expenditure that is for purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by the Act, or money has been withdrawn from the contingencies fund, and that the approval of Parliament for any spending under this article shall be sought within 2 months, that is after the first withdrawal of the money, subject to clause 3. If Parliament is not sitting during the time contemplated in clause 2, or is sitting but adjourns before the approval has been sought, the approval shall be sought within 2 weeks after its next sits. And when the National Assembly has approved spending under clause 2, an appropriation bill shall be introduced for the appropriation of the money spent in any particular financial year, the national government may not spend under this article more than 10% of the sum appropriated by Parliament for that financial year, unless in special circumstances Parliament has approved a higher percentage. And therefore, my understanding is that the supplementary budget itself is part of the main budget. So there's a certain amount appropriated for supplement, you know, for miscellaneous, the way you'd want to call it. It sits within the government, it sits within the budget, and therefore any adjustments that are done to this are a clear indication that it's an adjustment to the main budget, perhaps justifying some of the questions that Eric Regalo is asking. And I throw it back to you, Mheshimiwa. It's for right, with proper understanding and background of how, you know, Parliament operates, how the government operates, and especially when it comes to finances. What do you make of the Azimio team's, you know, questions that are being raised and all that? Seasoned politicians, member of Parliament that have sat there before, and we still have members of Parliament that sit in Parliament under Azimio. With all this understanding, you want to tell me that they are just doing this for political reasons?
Rinda, I want to take you back to the structure of the government. That currently we are enjoying a structure that actually all of us are in government. It's only that we have majority and minority. And I can assure you, according to the standing orders, all those audit committees that are supposed to audit the government are purely left to be managed by or chaired by the minority. And therefore they are the team which, to enable them to charge the government and to keep the government in total. If then there is somebody who is sleeping in his job, it is them, not us. Because they are the people who could be telling us this and this is misused, this and this has been misused, this and this has been dispatched, and maybe the level of absorption is not as per the required. It is their duty to do that. And today I would tell you that actually the last budget that we are now exiting from the June, actually it was not our budget. It was a budget that was left by the former president. And I can tell you most of that budget, you remember very well, the president alluded that actually he's going to just slice about 300 billion out of it. And therefore, what was the expectation of that? The expectation was that there was to have a reduction of most of areas that actually have been expended money, but that money after high, then those are deficits. And those areas is where we can say today there was a projection of a new road somewhere, but the president alluded, yes, how do you move to new roads when we have already loads that are stagnant. Then we put priority to those which are on quagmire, and we finish them, and then we deal about the new ones when then we have capacity to do that. And that's how it moves. And in this particular case, I'll tell you, the budget, because actually you have been able to reach the results of how correction of revenue has been going, and you realize that we have a big shortfall of billions of money. How do you see those gaps? Those gaps, the president have alluded that, yes, I am aware that the government has borrowed. But if you can be able to assess the proposed borrowed amount is not equivalent to what has been borrowed currently. And to me, I would say that, in fact, there are areas of concern where maybe you will be seen as if are forgotten areas, but it is affected by those areas of those reductions. And those reductions were purely to support the budget, because you cannot tell us you have such a magnitude budget and you are depending to fill the gaps of deficits by borrowing, because borrowing does not give us a solution, because we have just inherited those big debts. How do we deal with them? We should also multiply the debts to that level. How do we manage the country? Because at the end of the day, what we are going to have is that we will be having a government that is pure for recurrent expenditure, but no single development you are expecting out of it. Okay. Because how do you manage your development if you have no saving at all?
Honorable Mutambo says that he would start questioning this government after 1 year. Mheshimiwa, would it not be ironical for you to argue that way when you say that it is implementing the budget of the previous government? My thinking is that, well, this government assumed office somewhere in, September. And, clearly the budget then is read somewhere in July. Yeah. And my thinking is that they're going to present to us their budget in July. And so July, August, September, October. 2 months will be good enough to start looking at this government and asking it questions?
You have just read Article 223.
Yes.
And I have seen you posting it.
Yes.
On air. And it spells out what a government should do with 223. So when a government comes in, it comes empty-handed. Only what exists. Right? Laws, legislation, the funds which are there, the budget which is there. And when you are doing a budget process, you do a budget process based on the priority of the projects and what initiative you are taking as a government.
Yes.
And that was done by one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, not Ruto. Yeah. Right? That was the government which did it. And what we need to ask ourselves, what promises did we get from previous government so that we can audit ourselves and we say, why are we here today? One of the things which were given by the previous government is the cost of electricity going down. I have not seen him listing it down here. And electricity is a national, is a huge contributor to manufacturing, whereby the manufacturing cost and cost of everything goes up when electricity goes. I have not. What were the plans to have the electricity go down, and why did it fail? It is because it was anchored on a promissory note which could not work. Yeah. Because in Kenya we have private power producers who have contracts, and you cannot just go and alter that contract tomorrow. Somebody will take you to court. Yeah. So it was not a well thought. Yeah. But Kenyans were promised that the electricity will go down, and the power producer came up and said, no, we have a contract and you have to implement it.
Fair enough. So once they give us
that is number one. Number two, going back to that clause 223, you have said that there are some limitation of what you can budget for, or what you can ask, or what you can spend. So this government is relying or is pegging its operations under those existing and limits laws which we have. They cannot go beyond that. Right? And we ask ourselves, what is it that we have not gotten from this government? They promised to lower the unga. Have they? Let us ask ourselves and be honest to ourselves. How much was unga when President Ruto took over? How much was it?
Around 200 and something.
How much is it today?
The same, 200.
No.
Well, there are others that are 200, there are others that are 100.
No, let's hear.
Yes,
Be fair.
there are others that are 200, there are others that are 260, others are 209, sorry, not 260, 160.
There's
190. There is.
And therefore there's an option.
Yes.
There is
an option.
Let us be fair. You know,
there's
when
an
you
option to go to
criticize,
any brand of your choice.
criticize from an informed position.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Just take your research. Is there anywhere in the country, even if it's a kiosk, where I can get unga for 160? Then we need to ask ourselves, why is others are not selling like these other people? Those are the kind of
But also the prices
we need to carry.
should go in relation to the quality as well.
So that is, you asked me a question, and that's
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. I will not be quick to judge.
Eric, we're coming to you.
And number two, what I'm expecting, and you asked a question, will things change when this budget is read? One, I will tell Kenyans, because if road development levy is reduced from fuel, definitely fuel will go down. All right, 3.something%. It will go down. There are so many taxes which will be removed from fuel. So that means our fuel will go down. What is the spiral effect of that? That means so many things will go down, including transportation. Right? So Kenyans will start feeling that, yes, something is happening.
And I'm glad that you acknowledge, Mheshimiwa, that you have looked at the tentative proposals that will be there on the budget. Yes. And just looking at them, I mean, there are prospects that you can look at this and analyze and say, what are the possibilities that this will happen? In your own analysis, are you confident that what it is that you've seen can guarantee us?
When it is a law, it has to happen.
Yes.
Okay? When it is a law, the Minister for Petroleum will not tax that petrol because the law has been implemented.
Okay.
But has been passed. But when it is there in the law, he has to tax.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is okay.
I have an issue here with Joe Mutambo.
Yeah.
He is not being honest when he says that we wait for this government to read its budget, then we start criticizing.
Yeah.
When Kibaki took power, this country was at negative. Not like the way they were making noise here.
Did he bring it positive within 6 months?
Let me say what.
No, let us be fair. Did he bring it positive within the first year?
Did anybody cross your talk? Did anybody cross your talk?
Well, we'll
nobody.
Come back to him.
So that's why I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, they were making noise, saying that they got this government without even a shilling. Not understanding how a government can have a debit credit account. Maybe they should teach us. But when Kibaki got it at negative, the first 3 months, Kibaki gave us free primary education. Are you understanding this? Did Kibaki wait for the budget? Did Kibaki not do what he's saying, presidential decree? There are things that Ruto can do without a budget coming in.
Okay.
Which he has not done even one. Ruto was supposed to handle NHIF and make sure every Kenyan is eligible to NHIF. By December, he said by December, which was last year December, everyone will be under NHIF. Did he do that? How much money did he need to do that? Just to ensure everyone is enlisted. Did he do that? But here Kibaki in 3 months gave us free primary education. It worked. He didn't wait for the budget. So let's assume the budget has passed. The levy of the roads is removed from the fuel. But still fuel is going to go up. However much he's saying it's going to go down, fuel itself has been taxed directly. There is fuel tax. So how is it going to go down at 3% and fuel tax is still higher than 3%? I mean, teach me small mathematics to understand. Then I want to also look at fuel going down. It could go down if truly what Ruto said was true. I have talked to the government of Saudi Arabia. We are going to do G2G. I don't know, it's Saudi Arabia or whichever country in the Gulf. We are going to do G2G buying, government directly with the government.
It was UAE.
It was UAE. And the fuel is going to go down. That was his pronouncement, unless I'm having amnesia. Has fuel gone down after G2G?
It's gone up.
It's gone up. No, I'm just saying things that have been said and things that are happening. That's why some of these things we're being told to wait for the budget. It cannot work.
Don't you feel like you are a bit too quick to
I'm not quick.
I had a member
I'm
of
not
parliament.
quick. When you give birth to the baby,
yeah.
you have to be prepared to buy the pampers immediately because the baby is going to poop.
Eric, for instance, look at the free education that was given to us.
This gentleman,
rightfully say,
as much as he's a doctor, a doctor is a professional.
Yes.
Who understands the process even from the conception all the way to the birth.
Yeah.
Then you cannot judge a lady who has just impregnated yesterday to give you a child within a 3 months.
It's impossible. It has to be
possible.
a cycle.
In this particular case, also, I want his reasoning also to reason as if he also lives here. Because his reasoning is as if he lives to the moon and we live on Earth. And this is totally different. So, whenever he's challenging, because as much as democratically he has the right to challenge, he also wear our shoe. Because surely, we are really in the same field and we understand how things are happening, but actually when he comes here, he ignores that. He just wants to listen on the other side. So kindly reason and let the Kenyan also understand the situations as much as you are part of us. Because building economy is not the Ruto team which will build the economy.
And we want
the
economy is a cross-board, including yourself.
Yes, why am I arguing this way? The government we're having right now is actually Jubilee government. Nothing changed. Nothing.
That is debatable.
The deputy is the president. Okay? The MP is now a deputy.
Let me
the MP in Jubilee. The guy who pushed some of these taxes, Kimani Ichung'wah, is actually the government today. So if they are telling us we inherited from who?
From who?
Was the deputy not earning salary?
He was.
As a deputy president? Yes, presidency.
But remember,
what did he inherit?
Remember for a whole,
what did he inherit?
A whole term of government.
He was locked out.
A whole term of Jubilee government. He went to bed with the government. And actually the hardship changed all the metrics.
Did it?
Let me tell him this. If you believe in transition, then you cannot argue this way, my brother. If you say the government in power today is a Jubilee government,
it is.
I will also tell you that even the opposition today and the government are KANU, because we all came from there. Everybody was in KANU. Everybody was in Jubilee. Everybody was in this party. And once you make a decision to move out to a certain position, that does not make you now, you are the real person who came from the other world. All right? Tell me if Raila was not a life member of KANU. Are we going to accuse him and tell him that he's trying to take us back to one political party? No. I'm trying to make you think now. All right? Everybody was in somewhere. And the politicians in Kenya, and this is how it works, they keep on changing their attires. We've been on ODM, we moved from ODM, we've been in NASA, we were on, I don't know, CORD. We call ourselves so many.
Different to be part of a party and different to
so let us not address that.
About a government.
I said Jubilee government.
Government.
Yes. Yeah. So this is Jubilee continuation.
Why is it not KANU government? Why is it not KANU government? Tell me who was not in KANU then. Who is in government today? Okay. Why is it not KANU government? Why are we saying Jubilee? So let us not think that way. Let us reason what issues do we have at hand and what can we address and what can we advise the government so that we can make the lives of Kenyans better. But not to argue with emotions.
Yes, the social unrest cannot be ignored. So what will it take for this government to save its face?
To me, I think we have judged. I'm not saying that I support the government 100%. Maybe tomorrow I'll fight to be the president of this country, and Ruto will be my competitor. I just want to put the things in the right perspective. Okay? So when we judge and start telling Kenyans that this is wrong because it is Ruto who has done it, I think we are being unfair to Ruto as a human being. Right? When we stand here and we say we are not getting cheap unga and we have it in the shelves, then we are not being fair. When we ask ourselves, where did the money of subsidy go? And we know very well there are Kenyans who received fertilizer. And for your information, I don't know whether this gentleman farms. We have not harvested. for what has been subsidized, so that we can talk about it. It is still green in the chambers. So we need to expect that ilk to come and say, okay, Mr. Ruto, you told us that the fertilizer was given to farmers. Are they going to sell their maize at a lower price? Because the moment you say, I want unga to go low, you are telling the farmer to sell his bag of maize at a lower price. That's what you're telling the farmer. So the farmer will ask you a very pertinent question. You want me to lower my maize? Yeah. What input did I put on my shamba? That is where the question of fertilizer will come in. The government will say, you know what? We are asking you to lower the price because we gave you a fertilizer which was subsidized. Yeah. So there's an answer to that question. So we need to think beyond our emotions. What we are doing here, we are just telling Kenyans to react out of, and we are the people who tell Kenyans what to do. Let me tell you. It is the leaders who lead. If you see country going down, if the country is not stable politically, and for a country to be stable politically, it has to have politicians who have stable minds, and those minds who think and reason for today, tomorrow, and yesterday.
You must have listened to the address of the Azimio team, and you listened to them yesterday. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, seasoned politicians, I'm assuming James Orengo, you know, the leader of majority, and all these leaders that have been here long enough. I'll ask this question again, that the Azimio team does not understand how government functions?
I will answer that one politically.
One I will tell you. They understand how government functions. But out of ignorance, they will not focus on that.
Or political battle.
Let me ask you this.
Those for sure. They have their agenda. And the agenda is not building the nation.
What is it?
The agenda is to make sure that this government is held in ransom so that it does not perform. And therefore they'll be having what we call bullets to punch the government come even 2027.
That means that the government should work hard.
They have a hidden agenda over a whole of this scenario.
Let me ask you a question.
Allow him to answer that.
And I want to ask him.
Yes.
Those people, look at their face direct and name them one by one. Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka. Martha Karua. Eugene Wamalwa. Tell me who was not in government. Tell me a stranger. No, just a minute. Tell me a stranger in that group.
Hence my question.
So there is no stranger. Okay, let's go back now. Let's audit them.
Yes.
Let us see what was good when they are in the government. Tell me when we were in government as Raila Amolo Odinga.
They say the Grand Coalition government worked so well for the
people. Tell us what was good
about him.
About it. So that we give you now the scorecard. All right?
And so you say that this is politically motivated?
It's politically. I want to tell Kenyans, it's the same monkey, different forest.
That question is very easy to answer.
Okay.
If really opposition want the government to go down, as Mheshimiwa has said, then it's rightful for opposition for the government to work harder.
Yes.
Against the opposition wishes. Why would they listen then to opposition if the opposition wanted them to go down? If I was competing with you, definitely when I'm competing with you, it's most definite that you don't want me to beat you. So you will try very much, I don't beat you, by even putting hurdles on me. Then what happens?
Thank you.
You work hard. That is what Mheshimiwa have put, that this government, these oppositions want the government to go down so that they have bullets for them. Then why can't the government then work hard so that it doesn't get those bullets? And so now they argue
that the government has given fodder to
the that was
opposition.
Him. Now to him. Surely, you want to tell me it is opposition who told Ruto to go to Nyayo Stadium and tell them they are coming to get a scholarship to go to a university in Arizona? It was the government, it was opposition. So did Ruto not shoot himself by not giving them those papers?
Is this government giving order to the opposition?
So is the government not shooting itself on the foot?
Have you applied those papers and you have missed
and failed?
Why would I apply?
Just tell us. That's why we have been asking you to do the data.
Mtu yeyote ataingia Nyayo Stadium atatoka na karatasi mkononi. Nobody was told ataingia kule achukue simu
those are digitally applications.
Let me tell you.
We all understand the process.
So let me tell you, what I'm trying to say is, isn't it him who said that by December everyone will be enlisted in NHIF? Was it Raila who told that?
I'll ask this again. What will it take for the government to say?
Can't the government then do what they said so that opposition don't criticize them?
Let me tell you something. You know, there's a difference between a pronunciation of someone and the government policy. Those are two different things, right? I want to agree with him. There are some certain issues which the president, and the president being the commander-in-chief and being the head of a nation, has pronounced, which when you go back and ask yourself, you ask yourself some questions. What did he say? Okay? Maybe that is where now comes in who is advising who where, right? And he mentioned something when I was standing there about the planting of trees. You know, the president stood before nation and said, we are going to plant 15 billion trees.
In phases.
Okay? Whether in phases or whatever. This is something where those people who are advising the president to pronounce that need to take their pen and paper and ask themselves,
15 billion.
Just a minute. One tree, how many, what is the spacing of a tree? Okay? And how many trees can I plant in 1 acre? How many trees will I plant? How many acres do I need to plant 15 million acres? How many trees? So when you do that math, you'll have nowhere to build your road. You'll have nowhere to build your land. Your house. So maybe the president was misadvised to make that pronouncement. All right? I'm not defending him, but I'm trying to say there are people who are supposed to help the president in making decisions and making pronouncements.
And the president was asked, is it them that misadvise you, or is it you who does not take advice?
It might be as
maybe it's a slip of the tongue. I don't know. I will argue with facts. I told you I argue with facts, and I say it is it. I don't want.
What matters?
We cannot afford to take a slip of the tongue.
What matters, leader, is this. Is the promise,
the consequences.
Is the promise on course or not?
Linda,
is it?
Linda,
it is.
Linda, when you pronounce Germany, the government of Germany, we are in negotiation and we are going to offer 254 million jobs to Germany. What is the what is the population of Germany? What is the population of Germany?
It was not million.
250.
It was 250,000.
Listen to the clip.
It's not millions.
Pray it.
Millions. It's not
Pray the clip.
50,000.
It's
250,000.
Let me say this, and that's why I say before
don't create your figures.
The political analysis. Try to criticize. Try to understand the thinking of the other person. What were you saying? You know, it's also, we are all human, okay? You can say 250 million workers. Our population is 50 million. So maybe you meant to say 225,000 or something. So something can happen. Before we start jumping and just igniting and telling Kenyans, this person is like this, let us understand what was the concept behind it. And that's why I'm saying, what was the concept of tree planting? I don't want to believe it was 15 billion, because once you plant 15 billion in Kenya today, knowing the square kilometers of Kenya today, I can tell you, you'll have no place to build your own house or even to do a road. You would plant trees all over and then you have nowhere to live. So maybe that's something which you need to be looked into.
And
those are the issues, and we should not jump on those petty issues and now start telling Kenyans this government is bad. We need to understand what was the concept.
It becomes a mistake when you say that thing and repeat it again, and even these advisors are not there to alert you and tell you that, well, that is not realistically planned. We cannot afford
I am not a government spokesman, and I'm not a government advisor. I'm only saying it as a Kenyan, the way I said it on this television here. And I want to thank you, because that thing went all over. It was when I requested for reduction of tax on road levy, and my argument was one: and also the railway levy on fuel. Why are you taxing somebody in Kilifi railway levy for fuel and he does not use? Why are you taxing a person who is using kerosene road levy and he does not own a vehicle?
That's the question of the housing.
Those are issues. Also the same question with the housing levy. But the housing, we need also to look into that. That's something I need also to tell you, the benefit of housing levy and the disadvantage of it.
But leader, I would oppose that in totality. Because people from Northeastern enjoys the biggest chunk of our budgets. And they don't contribute to the kitty. Why?
They contribute.
Okay, after this short break, how do they contribute? How do they contribute?
Very minimal if they contribute.
After this short break.
Compared to what they give.
For the biggest of guests, from politicians to entertainers to content creators to whichever kind of a person you want to think that you'd want to see on the show, this is the place to be. Dr. Funeke tonight.
Each and every Wednesday. My name is DJ Lizney, not your ordinary DJ.
And of course, they call me the eagle himself. Your host, Dr. Funeke, is my name. Of course, every Wednesday at 7:30. See you there and don't touch.
Make sure to join us.
Tell your landlord as well. Jua unalipia parent.
Sikose.
From politics, health, cooking, relationships, and entertainment, join Linda Alela every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. only on Morning Cafe.
Your health is not just about going to the hospital. Your health is about prevention, it's about what you eat, it's about where you live. For this reason, the Body Garage Show exists.
The part of the brain that deals with communication.
Called primary hypertension, which means that we don't find a reason for that.
Join me, Dr. Chepsi, every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Beyond the Limit. We have not even scratched the surface when it comes to knowledge about disability. Beyond the Limit with me, Zainab Mohammed, every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
You know what pops in my house more than the rainbow? Walls. You know what I love between me and him? Space. Don't worry, dishes. No one is doing me either. Hey, not much. Just hanging around. Pull yourself together. Enough on the jokes. Let's talk about real estate. Catch the Realtor every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m.
As well as Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambu. We have about 25 minutes to be out of this space. I know we've talked about the hustler and whether they've been shortchanged or not. We still are not clear on how the government needs to save its face. Let's allow us not to focus much on the housing levy, but we have to somehow, because then the employee, the Federation of Employees is here, and now they're responding to this. They say, well, if this is the route that we're going to take, I'm afraid we are going to see most of the people losing their jobs. We are going to see employees that are, demotivated. They are not going to deliver and that. And we also saw the Right Honorable Raila Odinga speaking to this. And I mean, we've seen teachers saying that some of us have houses or have taken mortgages and we're paying loans. So how are you going to come back and tell me to again pay another one and everything? And here we are. So who goes first?
I do. Yeah. Because I was in a certain set with Mheshimiwa. Yeah. And that question came up. And we tried to assist the government. Now here it is not politicking, assist the government. And I remember when I was with him in that set, in a certain TV station, my argument was that Joe and Gakuya, they are older than me, so they have seen the government before me. There was a government that Kenya Railway had its own houses. There was a time Tusker
Kenya Breweries that is, had its own houses in Kariakor and wherever. So their employees used to live there. Kenya Railways employees used to live somewhere. The government houses for doctors and nurses, they were situated inside hospitals. When you go to Machakos, all these major hospitals, so these other ones have come up, they had staff quarters. We had quarters everywhere. Okay, first thing, when Ruto wanted to do this, he would have sat down with the major companies. Safaricom, tujenge nyumba 1,000. Kenya Breweries, tujenge. You understand? Then, from there, go now to teaching. Okay? Float it in teaching, that this is an offer we are giving teachers. Teachers, can you take it? Some will take it, some will not take it because already they have a position.
Yeah.
Doctors, this is an offer. Nurses, this is an offer. Okay? So you will get offers by people signing a document. That document will go to the salary section. Then it will be attached. You will definitely know, that under the Ministry of Health, I have 1,000 houses to build. These are the 1,000 offers. Okay? Then from there, you will ask the major players, Safaricom, Nani, to build houses. Some for their staff, and some for these people. That's why in Kariakor you would find wafanyikazi wa Kenya Breweries wengine, na wengine wa nini. You remember? And that made sure some of these things were taken care of. But if the government come in with taxation, it's going to feel it hard. It is going to be very hard for them. And Ruto said it's not a tax, it's a deduction. However much it's a deduction, it is not going to be possible. I told you, it's not what Ruto thinks. It's the social aspect of the thinking of Kenyans. He may be thinking, I need to assist Mutambu with a house. But Mutambu is thinking, 1,000 yangu tena inaenda, na hiyo nyuma nitapata kweli. The history of Kenya ni ya kuoshwa. Watu wameoshana bwana.
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of kuosha, yes.
Okay.
So positively, I told you, problem ya Kenya is social. He may be thinking good. But before he does that, he would have gotten a section of people to start this thing the way I've said. Then a rolling will come to others as the others see it is possible. But if he goes blanketly and now capture everyone, I want to tax you, Ruto is going to have a very hard 5 years, and this could be his Waterloo.
Mheshimiwa, before you come in, Honorable Mutambu, this is a reality. That at some point in time, this was not begun by the Ruto government. I think this was there during the time of the Uhuru government. And I mean, it received proper backlash until he had to
Mudavadi, it was 1.5% tax.
Yes.
Mudavadi himself made noise in 2019.
A lot of noise about it. Is this well thought?
It could be well thought, but the question would be the other way around. Is it well thought out there? Do people understand what is the meaning of this taxation?
Social.
Or do we have social information?
Yes, social.
To understand what am I paying? You know, let us be realistic. And I told you, I say as it is. There is no way you are going to tell me you are going to tax me 300 shillings for a house. What house? Who will pay for that house? 300 shillings cannot buy you a house. You need 277 years for you to pay that house when you are paying 300 shillings. We need to understand what is this 300 shillings for. Maybe it is to kickstart you. Any person who is working in this country, or whether working or not working, you need a place to live.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
You must pay rent in one way or the other. How much do you pay rent? If these 300 shillings will help one person or me or any other person to occupy a house with some arrangements, whether I'm paying these other 300, then I look for other money to pay to continue my good living, then this is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We need to understand it. It is not that I'm paying 300 shillings to get a house. From where? There's no, I want to tell Kenyans, you cannot pay a house, even if it's a kiosk of 500,000. You need 112 years for you to pay. Where will you get those years from? You cannot, but it is money to kickstart to help you get a shelter.
For instance, you're doing
the moment we put it in a manner, maybe that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. My friend, who is the president, is my good friend. Where maybe he's going wrong, he may not have a mouthpiece, people to tell people, Kenyans and he cannot do it on himself. Okay, he cannot do it himself. When he goes to Kaguria's area, he wants to speak about housing. He don't want to tell Kaguria what is all these things, and there's nobody who is talking about it. So it will be perceived in the wrong manner. And I want to tell you, if he does not have people to talk for him, this government may be one-time government. Because Kenyans, they do not understand the Ruto. He means very well, but he has no people to talk about it. Go to Ukambani. Who is talking about government, good things about government? Go to his area. Who is talking? And look at the people who are surrounding him. What are they telling Kenyans about the intentions of the president or about the intentions? He is laboring it alone with his deputy. And once they speak, Kenyans get it in a wrong perspective. Yeah. So he needs people to talk for him on his behalf. And that is why it's going wrong.
1 second is I support Mutambo. When the leader of majority in parliament woke up to speak, Honorable... No.
Leader of majority in?
Parliament. He's
the former Okada.
Kisii, in Kisii.
You're talking about former?
The guy from Kisii is called who?
That is Osore. That is
Silvanas.
He's a whip.
When he spoke, did he assist the government?
Well,
he didn't. You cannot wake up and say, mutalipa hii pesa, mupende musipe. What are you trying to tell us? So even if, I'm supporting what Mutambo is saying, it is more social. Please wake up and talk to the people. Wake up and open your Facebooks and everything. The drivers used to have to talk to the people. But if you use Osoro to tell people, ukipenda ama usipende, that is what they are doing now. That is what people are taking. And this is going to be a Waterloo.
Perhaps that's the reason why we feel like this is going to sail through the level of parliament, whether we like it or not.
Yes.
One thing, let me say that actually, as much as the advocates of the executive agenda are concerned, in the area of housing, I am sure that actually the PS housing, who is somebody Hinga, he's doing very well in terms of explaining to Kenyans about this particular concept. And what I can say is that probably he cannot win the battle alone. It requires also to be well thought by the county government so that actually the governors can also take charge, because they are part and parcel of this process, because most of the lands are already lands within the county governments. And therefore, because they are partners in this, they should also demonstrate and make sure that Kenyans understand about this concept, so that at least they can also support the national government in terms of understanding the concept. I would also say that, in fact, as much as this idea is a good idea, I also buy the concurrence of the panelists that you need to persuade. The language must also be soft. You cannot have a language of the former Nasil that Mpende Musmende. That cannot work in the current in the current
But even in the
world.
process of persuasion, you have to be real with the people and tell them the facts, like Honorable John.
Of course, I agree with you. And for sure, I will tell you that actually the ministry tacked to this particular concept, actually the CS himself and his team must be in the forefront to make sure that the Kenyans understand the concept. And even, actually, it's the civil servants. The civil servants, actually, they can be able to arrange for what we call conferences so that it can be able to sell the idea, and the idea becomes well thought. And you cannot at least be able to pick up if you fail to start the journey well. If you start the journey well, you finish well. If you start the journey long, you finish it long. So the understanding of the concept is not very clear, but I am sure that, in fact, leader, I take this particular concept to my knowledge, I would say, together we can do better. If we can bring the harness of these resources together from everybody who is that is a civil servant, we can do it quickly and we can achieve our goals quickly. But what is assurance? Because actually not of the staff of the civil service that actually needs those houses. Then there's a fear Where we come in, you start deducting our money, and we are not sure how is our recovery. How do we get our funds back? Because at the end of the day, not everybody would like to get to end up with a room. But the concept should be clear. Yes, after you clear your repayments, then on that particular house, you can sell it if you want, or you can lease it out, or you can, so that at least somebody is clear as much as the progress of this concept is moving on.
Dr. Mugambi says, why are you taxing people for a house when a person has a house?
Taxing.
Why force him to pay? And somebody else says that, well, maybe it could have been a better deal if they told us occupy the house and then pay bit by bit. It would make more sense. And another one is asking, Mheshimiwa Mutambo, we've been here with you. Just what has changed? Are you the same monkey in a different forest or a different monkey in the same forest?
Let me answer that. Let me answer that. You know, actually, most of Kenyans, and that's why I started by quoting Mandela. You don't expect your enemy to be my enemy. So many Kenyans, including my friend here, they expect me when I come here, I criticize the government.
The government.
Do you know why? Because when the government took over, they made sure that they fire all the people who are hired by Uhuru. I am a victim. But I don't criticize the government. I say it's the prerogative of the president to hire and fire. So I have no beef with that. That's not a problem to me. And I will always tell the president, because besides him being the president of the Republic of Kenya, he's my good friend. And I'll tell him where he goes wrong and where he goes right. I'll support him. So I am one person who says it as it is. So that person who is asking you to ask me this question is right, because I was with these people. But what I do, I say what is right. I don't say what you want me to say, okay? I say what I think is right for Kenyans. And what is right for Ruto today? I'll advise him today if you give me a minute. He is surrounded with people who are not helping him in talking out his agenda and explaining to people to understand. So people are asking us questions, like that person. Why are you supporting this government and they never gave you a job? I don't do it for you to give me a job. I do it because I think it's a good thing for Kenyans. And the moment you understand that, you will never go wrong. So who speaks for the government? It is the people who are hired. It is the people who are in the parliament, like Mheshimiwa, who are aligned to that government. Opposition is doing better than the government itself. Very few members of parliament are doing better in parliament than the people who are in government and they are members of parliament. And I have no problem and I have no apology to make because I want them to succeed. So I have to tell them, guys, you need to wake up. The people who have been employed by President Ruto to drive his agenda, once they get their job, they go home and get their salary.
I'm going to speak about hire and fire. Eric, I'm coming to you.
One second. I was asking, just on the houses. Linda, you know you will also get a deduction.
I know.
Your deduction is going to build a house for a civil servant. When will it reach to you who is not a civil servant?
They say they're going to give me back my money if I do not want.
That's why I was coming. Who are you going to ask your money back?
Yes, it will be a different government.
That is where I was coming. Under my salary payslip, there is NHIF, NSSF, VAT. It's all stipulated there. Everything, my taxes. And then you're told this is total taxes, this is net pay, blah, blah, blah. And then what? You understand, all deductions are there. So housing is going to be there. To who? Because I'm looking for the office and the CEO and everything the way NHIF is and NSSF. You understand? So that should you not get your house, you will go claim your money. So who will you claim your money now? And that's why they are saying it's not a tax. It's a deduction. NHIF is not a tax.
You will never claim
it's
your money.
It's in a deduction. You can never claim your money in NHIF. But should you get sick,
you're covered.
Should you die before even ever using your NHIF,
you're lost.
It is lost. So what am I trying to say? And I'm just being blank and open. Some of us will never get those houses. And will have paid houses for others. And it will be the majority of Kenyans who will have lost their money.
But there is no single money going to be lost.
Not lost the way you don't understand.
It does not benefit you.
It will not benefit me. So the money will go. So is it not paining to use your money haphazardly?
We have about 3 days.
That is why I'm
Kenyans
saying we need to be
on the
talked
question
to.
of public
We need to be
participation.
talked to.
Yes, we have 3 days, Mheshimiwa. You agree to that. And we're almost winding up. We have 10 minutes or even less to go. We do not go out of this space before speaking about what it is that you say, Mheshimiwa, that it is the prerogative of the president to hire and fire. And the latest is on the question of KEMSA. And the question is, are PSs assured of protection of public officers and offices and all that? You have seen what has happened recently. What do you make of that? And I'm sure, Eric Ragalo, you, for once, will clap for the Kenya Kwanza government, that at least they are attempting to address corruption. Mheshimiwa, KEMSA.
One thing, let me say that Lagalo, you will just laugh.
and criticize.
Because one thing is actually his mindset that actually William's government is not capable of fighting corruption. But I'm telling you that he actually has got it on a wrong foot. And this is just an example that at least the head of state is very much awake. And immediately this particular scandal was brought out, he has not taken more than 2 weeks to make an action, to make an action. And I think the action is this one. You don't require to ask somebody to step aside. Just ask somebody, because you are the employer. And if you have a full evidence that actually this somebody has poked into that particular kitty of corruption, then the best you have to do as a head of state is to crack the whip, so that in fact anybody else will know and be very, very much sure that actually you are in the order if actually you get to that particular direction. To me, this one we will be able to at least give a case study to the rest of the PSs and CSs that actually the William Munuto is maybe soft-spoken, but actually in terms of action, once you think that actually you go the wrong direction, you must know that the master will whip you out. And I think it's a good direction, because for sure, it is just after maybe a very short time that actually we have come back to this scandal of KEMSA. It tells you that if really it is clear and well investigated, and the results are that yes, the 4 billion was a scandal, then it is important for the head of state to crack it at that point so that he can stop the menace.
Before I come to you, Eric, Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambu, does it not disturb you that this also is taking a tribal line?
You see, this is where I keep on repeating and saying where we make a problem, mistake when we're analyzing issues. Kenyans need to learn to be appreciative. Today, if president does not take action, the same Kenyans
will castigate him.
And say, this happened and you did nothing. He does something, the tribe of Kakuns comes up guns blazing. That you are targeting our tribe, you are doing this. This is the country we live in. And for you to balance that, you have to be a strong person, like what President Ruto is doing. Because facts are facts. When something goes wrong, there is a place where the buck stops. And in any sucker, whether it's a government parastatal or it is what, it is under a PS and it is under minister. The buck stops there. Let me tell you, there is no payment which will go on in KEMSA without the PS knowing and without the PS approving. I have been a chair of parastatals, not one. I've been a chair of Water Resources Authority. I have been a chair of Ketraco. I have been a chair of Tarda. And all these payments, the MD does not pay without the authority of the PS. And for the PS, for you to approve that payment, there are some questions you need to put to ask. Well, how did this happen? Okay, and there are some things which you need to learn. So to me, I think when something like that happens and the president takes action, it's a tick for me.
All right, Eric.
It is a tick, but there will still be some questions. The question is, which I'm asking like any other Kenyan, Tum is the head of KEMSA under his docket, while the other PS,
Josephine,
there is nowhere KEMSA is running under her docket.
But she began this process, they say, that led to the wrong direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who blew it up? Was it Tum?
That's the question.
Thank you. Is it Tum? And if it was Tum, where was the Minister for Health? the Minister for Health should have come out and even talked to us. I mean, why is the president being the... And just let me finish.
Well,
just finish. Why am I saying this? The CS is quiet. Nowhere talking, she's quiet. This has happened in her docket at the CS Health. Does she have a word about it? She should have had a word, even if it's not being sacked, because I didn't say she gets sacked. She's done nothing wrong. Yeah. Okay, she got some of these things undergoing. She's done nothing wrong. But can't she say something?
Well, she's spoken to it, and said that also she was involved in this process and this action that the government took, or the president took.
So she was involved. When did she say
and
something?
argues that she does not have a clear...
Most likely, leader, the CS has not publicly
declared,
defended this.
Yeah.
But probably and most likely is that he has already briefed his master on whatever has been going on.
Yes.
And the master has come to take the action line depending on the evidence.
And she says she cannot ascertain if the PS, that is Dr. Josephine, was involved in this. She says so. That is Susan Nakhumicha. And then somewhere in between, then there's that aspect of confusion. And perhaps
that's what I'm saying. Why is she not aware? You didn't get what I was trying to say. Why did she talk about it? Because she was not aware. In her docket, none aware. Okay, how did the president then was aware that this thing was on Josephine's side and the CS is not aware?
Well, this is information that was presented, and as well, EACC has taken it up.
The CS is not aware. The president is aware. Then the president acts.
I beg to differ.
Close it for us.
I beg to differ. From where I sit, I want and I am persuaded that the CS is fully aware. I've worked in government.
Okay.
So I know how the system works.
Yes.
Okay. The CS is fully aware.
And
there is no
that.
PS who works in isolation without briefing
the CS.
Their boss.
Yeah.
And the immediate boss of any PS is the CS. Okay?
Yes.
So I am persuaded.
Okay.
I will go back to what I said before. That the president has people who are working for him, but they are not helping him in letting things out for Kenyans to understand what is happening in Ruto's government. It is left for him and DP to talk about it.
Yes.
The people who are around, even forget about that. If I was the chair of KEMSA, the president would not have done this.
Yes.
The president would not have done this. I would have gone to public and say this is what is happening.
Thank you.
But there's a chair in KEMSA who is also quiet.
Yeah.
Okay? There is also board members.
Board members.
Who are also quiet. There's the people Ruto has hired are not helping him run his agenda.
CS reveals intrigues behind Ruto firing her PS. She spoke to this. I don't know how much.
What I'm trying to say is actually what Mutambo is saying. Is that before Ruto acts, because now Ruto is acting like the CS, he's the CS, he's the president, he's the board chair. That's what I was trying to say. Before Ruto acts, where are the others who should have acted
before? Has he not acted upon the details?
I want to give you the story of former KEMSA. Did you see how the board were accusing each other? That is what you should have seen. The board talking, the chair of the board saying this happened, because these payments would not have happened if the board was not aware. He said something. He's been the chairman of other boards. Some of these boards are the ones who ratify buyings. So if this board was quiet, how then were these things done?
And remember, the biggest bone of contention is that we have lost on this one simply because, well,
Ruto has done right. I didn't say he's done wrong. He's done right. But surely, what I'm complaining is, where were the others? Why are they quiet?
And I mean, that's why perhaps
Ruto should not have done the work of a CS, the work of a board chair, because he's done a work of others.
Let me tell you this. Actually, maybe the PS could not have been fired if there was an active chair in KEMSA. Because what KEMSA could have done, they could have either stopped that procurement process, sack the CEO because they have the power, recommend to the PS to sack the CEO of the KEMSA. So when the PS is asked, why are you sacking the PS, the CEO? Because of 1, 2, 3. She will have a defense. Okay? But everybody went quiet.
That's what I'm
so what do you
saying.
expect?
Okay.
It is the president to come and hammer.
Reader, at that point, I would say, at the end of the
right.
day, one has to take the responsibility. And those who have been shown the door, actually, I would say that is where the president decided, yes, this road from this point to this point has to be cracked out. I would say that, in fact, going forward, he also needs also to evaluate those boards, because there's that particular main duty for the boards is to make sure that whatever a manager is doing, they are aware and they recommend what should be done. At the point of board decision, why did you decide on this? Because there's no single payment that the management can do without having involved the board. And therefore, if it's a scandal, it must be a wider, and it must involve the board and the management too.
Wanjiro says Mutambo is correct. The CS was aware. Communication gone down. The current DP was the owner of the mosquito nets. Well, that one is off. That perhaps I should have. But who knows? Just who knows? I think it's a conversation that is ongoing.